October 4th, 2013. Well, we're into October, and the supposed disaster in FEMA Region 3 has come to naught. So what does that mean? I mean everybody can drop their guard? No, it does not. Apparently, the intel stating that the emergency would happen in October may be flawed, or not so much flawed as the fact that it wasn't totally accurate. The emergency involving the comet Ison, if indeed it is the comet Ison that is going to impact FEMA Region 3, is not entirely accurate. In fact, Ison will not be passing through past Earth until later this year. So the comet Ison, that threat is set to happen later this year. So now the FEMA Region 3 alert is being extended through to the end of this year. So the disaster threat is being extended through to later this year. So if you live in FEMA Region 3, the alert is being extended to later this year. So basically what that means is if you live in that region, you're on alert status from October to end of December. So you better not relax your guard in those states. Again, we don't know what's going to happen in those states. We don't even know if it has anything to do with the comet Ison. All we know that in FEMA Region 3, which again, if you're not familiar with what the states are in that region, that consists of Washington, D.C., Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. If you're in any of those states, you are in FEMA Region 3. If you're in those states, FEMA is amassing massive amounts of survival food, ammunition. Apparently, they're training troops in urban warfare. Frickin' God, I don't know what's going to happen in FEMA Region 3. The rest of the United States apparently is not under any kind of FEMA alert. So I am not sure what is going to happen in the FEMA Region 3. The rest of us, we're not on alert. So whatever the hell is going to happen in FEMA Region 3, the rest of us apparently are going to do just fine. So we can relax. Okay. The problem with FEMA Region 3 is, of course, that our capital and our government happens to reside in Region 3. So should that area get hit, that obviously is going to cause a problem. Obviously, if Washington, D.C. gets hit, well, I don't see it causing very much of a problem because, as you know, our government can be moved. If indeed there proves to be a threat in that area, they're just going to move the senators and Congress and the president all under a mountain somewhere. Now, I forget where the mountain is, but we have some kind of facility under a mountain, and I forget which state has that mountain, but there's a facility under a mountain. So any threat to FEMA Region 3, and they're just going to move the president under the mountain, along with Congress and the senators, and they'll just put them all under a mountain. Which, given the governmental shutdown, I honestly think they should put them under the mountain now. Because really, what good are they doing us now? So, anyway, that's what's going on. So, if you're thinking, we're into October, and obviously these videos are a bunch of crap, and, it's just a bunch of, naysayers like there were in the December when they claimed the whole world on December 21st was going to end. Yeah, I wouldn't start that belief system right away. Just because nothing has happened so far does not necessarily mean that nothing is going to happen, even though we're into October 2013. Yes, nothing has happened. That doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen. What it means is that reports were off on their dates. Okay. The reports were not accurate. They had Ison coming in earlier than they had Ison projected to come in earlier. And I think the information, I think the people that put out these videos claiming that October 2013 was going to be when everything hit, I don't think they were quite aware of what the disaster was going to be. I think FEMA is preparing well in advance of whatever the problem is. I think FEMA is stockpiling well in advance of disaster. They would have to. So yeah, right now FEMA is in red alert status. They are amassing a huge amount of supplies, but FEMA would be doing that well in advance of a disaster. So if FEMA is amassing stuff in red alert status now, that could be months in advance of whatever the problem is going to be. So I would assume that if FEMA is in red alert status now, then would be several months away from whatever the problem actually is. So you can bet that, yeah, if there's going to be a problem, I would say that probably it is going to be the end of the year before we see any kind of crisis. So I would bet that the comet Ison is the reason for the red alert status. I honestly think that the problem will probably make itself apparent the end of December, when the comet Ison makes its appearance. And I think these preparations are simply as a precaution. NASA has projected that the comet Ison will pass by our planet, as is projected now. It will pass by our planet, and it's projected not to cause that many problems on its current trajectory. But, as you know, thanks to the governmental shutdown, NASA is currently on furlough. So we've got no idea what the comet Ison is doing currently. For all we know, it's turned its course and is headed right at this frickin' planet. Because NASA's not currently paying any attention to what the hell it's doing because no one's manning the telescopes. Which is a frickin' big problem. So hell if we know what it's doing. Frickin' God, it could be headed for the sun. Hell if we know. So this is a huge problem. We do not know whether how powerful Ison's going to be when it passes by Earth. There's a possibility that it's going to affect our magnetic poles. We do not know exactly what the impact on our planet's going to be. How close she's going to pass by our planet, what her impact on the sun is going to be. It could impact the sun. If it were to crash into the sun, it could cause some solar storms. We just don't know. It's hard to predict what the comet is going to do. It could change its course. We just don't know. So I believe that FEMA Region 3 is preparing for the worst. And obviously NASA has predicted that if it does change its trajectory, and I think, though they're not telling us, I think that they have predicted that Ison could hit Region 3, or that on its current course it is somehow going to impact Region 3, FEMA Region 3. Something is going to happen as a result of Ison in FEMA Region 3. And that is why there is a massive buildup in Region 3. Okay? And it has to do with Ison. I don't know what. There could be some meteors trailing after the comet Ison. I don't know. We've been having trouble with meteors. I just don't know what the problem is. But there's something coming this way. And FEMA Region 3 is preparing for it. And I believe it has something to do with Ison. If that is the case, then FEMA Region 3 is looking towards a problem developing towards the end of the year when Ison passes by. So, people in that area should be preparing for the worst. Again, you should be preparing your homes with survival food. You should have, it's going to be cold towards the end of the year, especially on the eastern coast. So you're going to want to make sure you have plenty of warm blankets, plenty of warm clothing. You should have plenty of water stockpiled, clean water stockpiled in your homes. Propane stoves would be a good idea. If you've got fireplaces, plenty of wood. propane stoves would be a good idea. Anything that can keep you warm during this period of time. And I would try, if you have the income for it, to at least have at least a month's worth, at least if you can afford it, a month's worth of supplies. You're going to want to have first aid kits on hand, medicines that you might need if it's possible. You don't know how prepared the government's going to be or how bad the need's going to be. You're going to want to be prepared for the worst. Okay, FEMA is amassing supplies and stuff, but as we saw during Katrina, you cannot count on the government during a disaster. You don't know how good the roads are going to be. You don't know how well the government's going to be able to reach you. So, in an emergency, it's always best to count on yourself first. Do not count on Uncle Sam. A lot of cases, Uncle Sam can't get to you. So you need to be able and prepared to take care of yourself. Okay? Make sure your cars have fuel. In fact, if you can, keep gas cans on hand. If you have your own home, keep some gas cans on hand to dump into your cars. So if you have to, you can get the hell out of there. These are things that you should be keeping on hand. Okay? This is what I would suggest. Okay? Like I said, I would predict that this is going to happen towards the end of the year. But there is no specific timeline. This is just what seems to be panning out. Okay? As far as October goes, I don't see anything happening in October. Okay? I think the timeline there was off. Ison is nowhere near this planet at this time. Ison will not be passing by this planet until towards the end of the year. Okay? I think FEMA right now is amassing supplies in preparation for the end of the year. The only reason they're in red alert status now is they're preparing months in advance. They would not wait until the last minute to amass supplies. They would be amassing well in advance. So people shouldn't be flying into a mad panic. Okay, these videos always come out because they get wind of a red alert status from friends or something, and they think, oh God, FEMA is amassing stuff. There's something's going to happen immediately. Well, that's not the case. Usually, FEMA would be preparing well in advance. So, like I said, we're looking at something happening towards the end. And again, the only red alert status is FEMA Region 3. The rest of the United States is not in red alert status. Apparently, we're all going to be fine. So, if you're in those states, prepare for the worst. The rest of us, we're going to be fine. It doesn't seem to be affecting us. So, again, it's just business as usual for us, except for this stupid governmental shutdown. Oh, and again, for the rest of us, NASA is on furlough still. So, the rest of us shouldn't feel too secure in our world either, because a meteor could be headed towards us right now, and the rest of us could get taken out at a minute's notice too. So none of us should feel too secure in our world either, because right now we're deaf and blind to whatever the hell is going on in space. So we shouldn't feel too secure either. Not too happy about this whole NASA shutdown. I think that's a whole frickin' big conspiracy, but that's another story.